I'm Carla Wilson, and today we're going to do some Swedish Kurbit painting, and happy Midsummers. First, we're going to start with telling you a little bit of the history behind the Kurbit painting. It was primarily in 5 provinces in the country of Sweden, so Dalarna, Hälsingland, Västergötland, Småland, and Holland. And I have some samples of some of the painting. The best thing you can do when if you're wanting to learn how to Swedish Kurbit paint is get some resource books, because the easiest way to learn is to copy what you see painted until you understand the strokes, develop kind of the technique, and then you can combine the strokes in a way to make your own patterns. This book here is all about the Kurbit painting in Hälsingland. So that's a great one just for that province alone. This book here tells the history of folk art throughout Sweden, and it covers all mediums of folk art. But in this picture here, you can see where they have painted the walls depicting different scenes. This looks like a hunting scene maybe here, and here it looks like somebody's being courted. And they also show the ornately painted furniture. Along the top, in the border, it has some script here. And typically the painters traveled from house to house, and they would barter, like you would pay them so much, but they would also get room and board. And so you always wanted to be really nice to the painters and fix them nice food, make them comfortable. A lot of people were illiterate on the farms, and so they had no idea what the script actually said. The painter often told them, and often it was true, that it described what was going on in the painting. But if the painter felt like you didn't appreciate his work, or you were mean to him, you didn't take care of him, and I did say him, the painters were primarily men, he would write something mean, like the farm lady is fat, or something like that. And they would just for years have this in their home, and people would go and say that, we've had this nice painting done, and at the top it explains the painting, and of course no one was going to tell them what it really said. Here is a sample of some very early painted cupboards, and this one's probably the oldest, and as it goes up, this is pretty abstract looking flowers, but as the newer ones come out, it more and more looks like a flower. So it has changed over time. Here you can see another sample of some very brightly painted walls. This is a close-up. You can see here that it covers the whole wall. Here we just have the Kurbit floral panel on a wall, and then again the cupboard is also painted. And typically at the top or inside the door of any piece of furniture, the name of the person who it was given to is painted along with the year that it was painted. Another fun thing about folk painting that goes along with the Kurbit painting is field milk painting. And this field milk is a sour milk that you make, and then you mix dry paint pigment in it. You paint a solid layer on, and then using your hand, as this gentleman is doing, or a brush, you can pull off the design. So that's a lot of fun. We're not going to do field milk painting, however, today, but something for you to try. So today we're going to paint the Kurbit design that's in the Lindsborg coloring book, to give you an idea of what that would look like if we actually did it with oil paints. And Kurbit painting is done with oil paint. And then you simply mix, and I use spice bottles. So we have some nice saffron here. In this is a mix of linseed oil, and it's probably 90% linseed oil and 10% cicative. It takes very little cicative. It's a drying agent. And the linseed oil simply makes the paint thinner and more pliable. We have the basic color palette here. So we have some ochre, some sap green, umber brown, or raw umber, white, some violet, and Payne's gray. From this basic palette, then you can add a few more colors. We have the burnt sienna, the Persian blue. It's called Grumbacher red. I call it Dollar Horse red. It's more of an orange, and then a deep red. And from there you can take it a little further and even add some phthalo green and some yellow. But this really is the basic traditional palette. However, Kurbits today are done in many different colors. So all of the paint has been, I use an old plastic dinner plate as a palette. You can use whatever you'd like. You can see the paint is not so thin that it runs off. But I've put a little bit of the oil paints on, and then I have I have thinned it with the mixture of linseed oil and cicative. And I have poured a little bit of that in a cup. You don't wash your brush out in this. You simply use it to thin the paint. You can also use it to, if you dip your brush in it and wipe it, it will take out excess color out of your brush. So that's always good to do. And in doing that, sometimes it muddies this mixture. So instead of contaminating your whole container, just simply pour a little into a separate container. We've been painting, so we're just gonna get these brushes cleaned out a little bit before we start again. Okay, here we go. We're gonna do this painting right here, again, out of the Lynchburg color book. And you paint the Kurbit in layers. So you do all one layer, and then you go back and you add the second layer, and you want to see the layer of paint. From one layer to the next, you should see the layer of paint. If your paint is too dry, or you don't like the way that it's flowing, simply add more of the mixture. This first layer you can play with a little bit. You can, fill this in, stroke it. I think it's gotten a little dry. Just add a little more of that. When you mix it in, you want to make sure all the lumps are out of the paint. So that's why I've already pre-mixed the paint, because it takes a little bit of time to do that, to make it the way you like. And it's okay if the paint is not solid. If you leave some areas like this that aren't, that's all right. That just adds kind of to the look. Okay, it looks like we're gonna have flowers here, here, and here, say. So we're gonna add another couple little leaves up here and here. And then we have some little buds. And when you're painting on a flat surface like this in front of you, you really want to try and do everything with it upright like this. So then when you're painting on a wall, you're able to make those strokes kind of upside down and backwards, because you won't be able to turn the wall. However, if you really want to, when you're painting and it's more comfortable and you're learning, you can turn your paper so that it's more directly head on instead of trying to do it upside down. Okay, so that's the first layer. And we're going to come back in here with a little green. And every time you paint over a color, you're going to pick up some of that color. And it's so, right now I've got two colors in the brush. And you simply wipe it off, wipe the excess off, and go to the next color. The leaves won't look exactly like what they do in the color book, because we're gonna show you some different style of leaves. Again, that was one stroke, so you get one time. You don't, if you go, If you continue to go over it, it'll turn to mud. The colors will just all blend and turn to mud. So instead of being able to see a little of the green and yellow in the thinner parts where the brown is, it's just going to become mud. So you just want to make one stroke and then leave it. And now we're going to add the white to our leaves. And there's not a lot on the paintbrush, but we have to wipe off in between or you won't see any white. Oh, I was going to do these a different way. Here, we'll do this way. So you can't see it now. When we highlight it, it'll all come to life and you'll be able to see it better. It's hard to see the white on by itself. So here we have ripples, kind of a leaf effect with just one stroke. Here we're going to make them with single strokes, and each time we make one, it gets a little darker because it's picking up the other colors underneath. That's good. You want to see that shading. Okay. Oh, we've left this little guy out up here again. I'm holding the paper so it doesn't move. Okay, now we're going to add the colors that we're going to need to make our flowers. The center of this one down here at the bottom. Do a little ochre. And then we're going to do the top in white. And you can use your one hand to steady the other hand. If that helps you. Okay, we're going to make this flower. So our leaves have come down and now we're doing another layer over the top. We're painting right over some of the leaf area. And then we're going to put our flowers in here. We'll just go right over our little marks that we made for placement. And then we have to add a little bit of color to our buds so we know when they bloom what color flower they're going to be. That one looks like it got cheated a little bit. There we go. All right. Just make sure you have plenty of paper towels on hand. Okay, now we're going to add the white to our flowers. And each time you make a stroke, now this next one is we're going to have picked up a lot of the violet, so we're going to have to wipe that off. So you don't want to put too much paint on your brush because you're going to wipe a lot of it off. And it just really doesn't take much. I don't like the fact that this one is so red, so we're going to do that. Add a little more white to it. And the Kurbit represents, this floral motif represents God's blessing and protection. It comes from the book of Jonah, when God made a fast-growing vine with large leaves and plumes come up to give Jonah protection and shade. And the only thing that, at this time, Bibles didn't have pictures, and the only thing that people could think of that they knew that grew fast and had large leaves and blooms was a cucumber or a gourd. So the word for that originally was cucurbita, and it is now Kurbit. So Kurbit means cucumber or gourd. Okay, now we're going to do, this is the fun part. So it's not maybe so pretty right now, but we're going to highlight it with this raw umber. And this is what brings it alive. And before we worked from the bottom with the first layers, and we continued to work from the bottom up. Now with the script with the highlights, the details, we're going to work from the top down. So if anything gets layered, it looks like it's going down into the flower instead of something at the bottom sitting on top, which would be odd. So I'm just putting my hand where there's not paint to support the other hand so I can do the fine lines. And as I'm picking up paint, I'm kind of rolling the brush. It evens the paint out in the brush. We don't want a lot of paint on the brush. Again, it's kind of the one stroke wonder. You get to make one stroke, and it's better to leave it. Not everything's going to always look perfect, but if you look at the flowers in your flower garden, they don't all look exactly the same either. You can add as much or little detail as you like. It's kind of how you just develop your style as you go, at the same time keeping true to the art or style of Kurbit painting. Ugh. There are a lot of Kurbit painters in Sweden compared to the United States, but it is coming back. It has made its way back over the years. However, I must say the Norwegian rosemalling, which is also stroke painting, Norwegian rosemalling, American toll painting, Swedish Kurbit painting, Hendelopen from the Netherlands, it's all stroke painting. And it's a matter, and they're all using the same like basic 6 strokes, and it's a matter of how you put them together that creates the different look, the different, so if you see them by themselves, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between Norwegian rosemalling and Swedish Kurbit painting, but if you have them side by side, they look a lot different. It's easy to tell. Okay, so now as we look at the final project, the painting is finished. We can see that the script work is completed, and it just makes everything pop and brings it to life and gives it a 3D look. We've made the little dots with the back end of the paintbrush, so you can use both ends of your paintbrush. And as you look at it, you can see the different layers of the paint from the first layer through to the last layer, and that's the effect that we want. So happy painting.